Serious people who had stalkers. When did you first realize you were being stalked? I went to go visit my dad out of state because I just really needed to get away from my extremely toxic mom and her family for a while. Toward the end of my vacation, I was like, I'm a legal adult, there's nothing stopping me from just staying here. And I decided it was better for my mental health and overall well-being to just stay near my dad. My mom flipped her stuff. I told her, I just really want some space. When I'm ready to talk to you I'll call you. But they have no sense of boundaries, so she and my half-sister constantly called my dad's house trying to get me to come back to live with them. My sister would call, hang up when I wouldn't answer, and then call again right away, so there would be 30 calls on our caller ID in the span of 30 minutes. When I wouldn't pick up the phone, my sister switched to bombarding my MySpace inbox with one insane message after another at 3 a.m. I started noticing weird things around town. Cars I didn't recognize would slow down by me when I was out walking. People that I had just met would suddenly know things about me and ask about my mom like they were trying to get info. My mom called out of the blue one day to ask about my hair. When I lived with her she always made me keep it long as a means of control. My hair is very thick, heavy, and on the dry side, so it was always a nightmare to keep it down past my waist like she wanted. After I decided I was staying with my dad, one of the first things I did was chop my hair off super short. It felt great getting rid of it all, and I found out after all this time, my hair was actually curly. I never knew because all that hair weighed the curls down. So when my mom called and gave me this really bitchy, "How long is your hair now?" I just told her, I cut it, because it's my hair. "Why? You have people out here spying on me." She sputtered, "What? What? No. I just asked because, I'm your mom and I could just feel that you cut your hair because moms always know stuff like that about their children." "Yeah, sure, whatever." After a year my dad and I moved to a different house and never gave my mom or her family the new address. I never filled out a change of address form, but when my maternal grandmother sent me this really weird card in the mail, she addressed it to the old house. The post office wrote my new address on it and sent it back to her, and she resent it to my new place. After that, random cars would start showing up in our driveway and just sit there. Our driveway wasn't lit, it was on a main road with a lot of traffic, and if you didn't know the driveway was there, you'd miss it. My friends would miss it even when they knew it was coming up, or they started parking on the side street because my driveway was such a pain in the ass. This wasn't the type of place where you pulled in to turn around. Yet, here were these cars in our drive. My stepmom caught one, and as soon as she opened the door to ask, "Can I help you?" the car booked it out and went off down the street. I had a job at a fast food restaurant to pay for college, and things were good until one day someone comes in and says in this sing-song voice, "Oh hey, I, throw a yai. So good to see you." I look and there's this woman standing on the other side of the counter, and it took me forever to recognize her as my mom's sister-in-law. I didn't talk to her, but apparently she called my maternal grandmother and mom right away to let them know she found me and where I was working. Then mom packs up her entire family, her parents, my half-siblings, my insane sister, her husband, their kids, everybody, and drove halfway across the country to show up at my job unannounced to, I don't ducking know what, but they were filming me with a video camera, and with a whole crowd of them I have a feeling my mom was attempting to gang kidnap me because she kept trying to get me to come out from behind the counter while they were all crowded around. I refused and wouldn't answer with anything but, "I'm at work and you need to leave." There's really no ending to this because even 13 years later I'm still dealing with their bull stuff. It's not as frequent as it used to be, but every once in a while they can't help but try to send me messages through whatever means they can try to contact me, like LinkedIn messages or something, just to be ducking annoying. Thankfully I have a really great assistant that runs my work Facebook page, so not only does she catch all the crazy so I don't have to see it, she gets a taste of their insanity firsthand, so there's some validation there. When I couldn't get into my email because it was currently logged in from a different location, After 10 minutes it was obvious that it wasn't a system error. Honestly, a very scary moment. When I got a text from a number I didn't recognize telling me to look outside. I lived in a first-floor apartment and there were flowers and chocolates on my balcony. Mother Ducker worked for IT and was in a position that he had access to the employee records, so he got my cell number and address out of it. What was even crazier was I told my upstairs neighbor to keep an eye out for him and she said he'd stalked her too. Apparently, this guy just had a reputation for stalking every new girl in town. It was a smallish/medium-sized town. It escalated over the course of the year but was quite frankly more absurd than terrifying because the stuff he did was just so bizarre. Finally had to get a restraining order against him. My mother dated a man who turned out to be abusive. Once she ended this, he began to stalk us. In the beginning I didn't have a license. Later on, when I did, he started stalking both of us. Some clues we found were seeing odd cars driving slowly in the neighborhood. This isn't a sign by itself, but when combined with the same cars being seen nearby at other times, we figured it out. He knew people who owned new and used car dealerships. We started hearing from friends about things we had done that no one would really know about. Like my mom may have visited a relative or I went to a party with friends. Somehow a neighbor or other person asked how that was. We found out he was talking to these people as friends without them knowing what he was up to. So they were volunteering information in a harmless way. Our trash started being disturbed. Found out he was going through it and taking out things like billing statements, letters, and so on. This was before privacy and identity theft were an issue. In the single worst example, he had shown a letter I had written to a prospective girlfriend to a friend of his. I threw out my drafts and accidentally left it there. I just happened to see it when I was there and the mutual friend told me that she thought the guy had it to proofread it for me. Humiliating. I noticed once I had my license I was being followed when I was out on country roads and so on. Even through college he did it on occasion when people in my hometown knew when I had gone dancing or whatever at clubs. So, all in all, just be vigilant. If you ever feel someone is following you, be it a stalker or a road rage person, do not go home. Go to a well-lit area or a manned police station. Shred everything you throw away if there's anything personal on it. Get a good cross-cut shredder that cuts into tiny pieces. And these days, call the police. They'll take it more seriously than they did in the past. When I would come home and my blinds were turned in such a way that someone outside could see in, even though I always put them back, the next day they would be turned. Then there was that time I found him hiding in my shower. Needless to say, there was some restraining order action and a stay in jail. When he tried to sneak onto my bus. We were both in high school and he was mentally disabled and much bigger than me. He was convinced I was his girlfriend and I had severe social anxiety and didn't know how to handle the situation. He'd always talk to me in the hallways and before I got on the bus. I generally tried to be nice but not stay near him for too long. He asked to come to my house but I lied and said my parents wouldn't like me inviting a boy over. He then tried to get on my bus but the bus driver wouldn't let him. This happened a few times until the bus driver told a teacher and then someone had to watch him while we waited for the bus. I thought that'd be the end of it, but he only got more obsessed with me after that. He memorized my schedule and would follow me in the hallway asking me to meet him somewhere outside of school. He was really scaring me but I didn't think he knew what he was doing. I'd text my best friend to come help me. He was honestly my hero at the time. It pretty much came to a head after my grade 11 finals. I was done before my friends and was waiting outside the classroom alone when he found me. He grabbed me and sat on the floor with me in his lap. I was terrified but I didn't know what to do. He asked me to kiss him but I said no. He kissed me anyway. I started to cry and then a teacher found us. They punished him but I begged them not to tell my parents. I just wanted to forget it ever happened. For unrelated reasons I went to a different school for grade 12 and I heard he a girl that looked just like me. I've always felt really guilty. I should have said something or done something to stop him. I'm still nervous around men, especially ones that look like him. Hoo boy. I'm a guy, used to be a bartender. Working a shift one night and start chatting to this girl. She seemed nice enough, so I asked her out, and a couple days later we go on a very casual date. Literally just met up for a cup of coffee and a chat. My next shift at the bar, she turns up, alone, and sits at the end of the bar. I'm just doing my job, start having a laugh and a joke with one of the regulars, and crazy storms over and starts full-blown screaming at the girl. Tells her to stop flirting with my boyfriend. It nearly gets physical. The bouncers are already over, standing by to chuck her out. So, I tell Crazy that I'm not her boyfriend. That we've been on one single date that lasted an hour, and if that's how she's going to react when I just talk to another woman, especially when I'm just serving a customer, she can duck right off. She screams at me, and storms off. Next day I woke up to about 50 text messages. Starting with "I'm sorry." Then "Why aren't you answering?" Then a ton of abuse, then she'd apologize for that and the whole thing would start over again from "I'm sorry." I blocked her number. Next work shift she comes screaming into the bar, begging for forgiveness, that she's sorry, please unblock her number. I tell her in no uncertain terms to duck right off and to leave me alone. Screams, tears, and another storm off. Then, a few nights later, I was going to bed, turned off my bedroom light and my phone goes off. A text from a number I didn't recognize that just says "good night." I look out of my window. She's parked across the street watching my house. That went on for a week or two, then the strangest part happened. I was at work, and she walked in, came to the bar and told me she was there with her new boyfriend. I breathed a sigh of relief while pitying the poor ducker. Then her new boyfriend walked in. He was my ducking doppelganger. I mean, people could have mistook us for twins. He even wore the same glasses I did. So, I was just standing there, I shock, and she introduced this guy to me as her ex. It's only funny looking back now, but the look on the guy's face when he was me was just pure "oh duck, she's insane." So, she makes a big deal of basically wrapping herself around him all night in front of me, while he looked more and more uncomfortable. Then at some point he leaves, and she tries to get behind the bar crying hysterically that she was only dating him to make me jealous and she really loved me, not him. The ending is pretty anticlimactic. I went to the police station and reported her and asked how to get a restraining order, but never ended up needing one. Being removed from the front of my house on another late-night camping session by the police scared her into leaving me alone.